shook her hand, now she tells me she's great.
All right, I'd like to,
Anybody have any hand sanitizer?
I'd like to call the meeting to order this evening. There's several meetings we'll be going in and out of, but the first one is a public district budget hearing. So the first order of business is to read the public notice. Mr. McNaughton, would you please do us the honor, sir?
Notice of public budget hearing. Notice is hereby given to all those entitled to vote in town meetings in the town of Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington. That a public hearing will be held on Monday, April 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the library of the Chippewa Valley School, 159 South Street, Washington, Connecticut, to present the annual budget for the year 2018-2019, prepared by the Regional Board of Education for Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12, copies of which will be available at the public Valley Regional School District 12, Bridgewater, Roxbury, Washington, by Anthony Amato, Chairman, Board of Education, Washington Depot, Connecticut, 06794.
Thank you. Michelle, you going to run us through an overview? Thank you.
All right, so I'm just going to briefly outline what we have done to come to the budget that we have just will be presenting. So in February of this year, the Board of the Finance of the School Board held workshops with, or the administration, that were open to the public, and the boards of selectmen and boards of finance were invited to those. And we actually did have some Board of Finance members attend those workshops, and that was greatly appreciated. So in February, we heard from all of the administrative staff. They presented their requests for the upcoming year. Then March 5th, the superintendent presented her budget, which was a 3.97% increase over the year before, which was an increase of $850,000. This reflected cuts of over $700,000 off of the requests that we heard in February. So there were quite a few requests that were cut before that. Before we started deliberating in March, I just wanted to point out that there were three things that, three large drivers of the increase that we don't really have, there isn't much we can do about. $526,000 of the increase was due to a health insurance premium that we are not able to do anything about. Bob, our business manager, put the contract out to bid, and is negotiating with our current provider, received several bids back, all within several points of percentage points of each other. So that is the largest driver of this increase. We also had close to $100,000 of special ed increases that are mandated by state statute and the students' IEPs that we can't do much about. And a little over $100,000 of increase in the teacher contract, which is a union contract that is not open for negotiation at this point in time. So that reflects over $700,000 right there that is not on the table for us to work with. So then the board deliberated in March at two different meetings. And at that time, over those two meetings, the board cut another $260,491 from the superintendent's proposed budget, bringing us down to an increase of 2.76 over last year. Just to review what those cuts included, we moved some capital items out to be funded out of our capital non-recurring fund. We cut 2 buses, which saved $113,000. Those buses will be coming out of the Roxbury and Washington runs. We cut 2.5 paraprofessional positions and a project team coordinator, saving us $70,000. We reduced the superintendent, the budget for the superintendent's salary, and that's it. So those cuts brought the increase down to $589,000 over last year's budget, which I'll just remind you, $526,000 of which is from the health insurance premium. So it is a relatively flat budget. So that is where we are. I wasn't going to go through, is that enough overview? Okay. So that's where we are now.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open the floor up to questions or comments. Anyone who wishes to speak, please approach the microphone, state your name and the town.
My name is Ed Wainwright. I'm from Bridgewater. I assume everybody who answers the question is going to speak into the microphone because my hearing is not well. And I have 3 questions. The first relates to the ban ag stem on page 13. There's appears to be a change from what was forecast on the website for from 125,000 to 150,000. And my question is that because the size of the bond went up? Are we using a different size bond? Does anybody have an answer to that question?
Hold on.
Yes, we do. You ready?
Does Bob know how to use a microphone?
I think he does.
Good.
Do you want the answer?
Sure.
Okay. It's a change in the interest rate assumption from one year to the other. Interest rates have gone up, and it's a ban. It's not a bond. It's a short-term borrowing.
Uh-huh. So what is the interest rate?
It's 1.75 on $9 million.
So what's on the website
It's
is not accurate.
150,000. Pardon me?
What's on the website is not accurate.
It certainly is accurate. It's $150,000.
I thought you had 175. What's
You're on page. What page are you on, Ed?
13 of 13.
Let me just relook at the number.
If you look at the website under the ag proposal financials, it talks about having $125,000 for the ban. So I'm referring to the website.
Are you referring to two documents?
I think the date on that was January of 2017.
And interest rates have changed since the financial plan was put in place. At that point in time, we were assuming we were going to do this, and there was a year delay. And a year delay, it cost $25,000.
So that must mean the bond interest rates have changed as well.
It very well could. It depends on when we issue the bonds.
So you don't have a forecast on that either.
Nope. This is the budget for next year.
Okay. Well, the second question has to do with the Ag STEM director. It's on page 8 of the budget. It's $126,000 for the Ag STEM director, I believe it, on page 8. And when it was originally forecast, it was forecast for $74,000. So what does $126,000 consist of?
The 126 consists of all of the benefits for the person. Okay, and it includes them working 12 months a year, not as a single 10-month employee.
So the original forecast did not include the benefits because it's
The benefits were in the benefit line. This is an all-encompassing number to put this position in place. Once we break it apart, the benefits will go to the benefits, the salary go to the salary line. So it's a transparent number that it's going to cost you to put this person in place.
And this is a full-time person,
That's correct.
when the original forecast was a 7/10 person. Does not include any clerical help, is that right? This
Not number at this point.
126,000 does not include clerical help.
This number on page 8 does not.
I beg your pardon?
It does not.
Does not. Good. You're coming to the end, so, on page number 3, there was discussion about dialogue. I don't know, it's not in the budget there, but it was discussion about sending teachers to Taft for AP courses of some sort. And in the budget, there's an item called public relations for $24,000. Originally, the forecast for the Ag STEM program included $24,000 each year for 4 years for STEM, whatever that meant. I don't understand what the $24,000 was. Is this the 24,000, or are we going to have another public relations person? What is this 24,000 on the? I don't know if I could find it right now. It looks.
There are two different things you're talking about.
Can you clarify the page again, Mr. Wainwright, please, so we are online
Well,
following?
it's gonna take me a while. I don't want to hold everybody up. If you want to take on the next questioner, I'll come back in if I'm allowed to do that.
It's on page, the number you're talking about is on page 4
Page 4.
of 13 in the budget,
Page 4.
in the 330 expenditure line items. And it's a public relations outside
Outside services. What is that for?
public relations. The board initiated a public relations by hiring an outside person to do it, and that's an annual cost.
What are they doing? What is the board doing? Hiring another public relations? Is that correct? Does anybody on the board know about that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to give you my insights. The board felt that they wanted to do more public relations, more marketing in not only our communities, but the surrounding communities to attract families to the region, to either tuition in their students or to have families possibly move here. We started this year, and we had a 6-month trial, which had some positives and some things we need to work on. So we don't have anyone currently in that position. It was a consultant, so it was a $2,000 a month. And so the board wanted to keep it in the budget so that this way they can use this person again to market to families and possible future students, and also to market to future agri-science students. I don't know, so that's the $24,000. I don't know what you're referring to as far as the STEM public relations piece. That, I'm not sure. It may be when we have to recruit students and go into schools to have students come here. That's part of the mandate of the program. There are costs for copies and possible mailings and that kind of stuff. So that might be an expense that was somewhere in the agri-science budget, but I don't have the details of every piece of that with me.
Can somebody articulate what the 24,000 for 4 years was in the agri-science financials for STEM? Can you tell me what that is? I mean, I've always wondered what that is. Maybe that's off topic on this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anybody has those details in front of them. If anybody did, it would be Bob. So why don't
All right.
why don't we get back to you with an answer on that particular question?
All right, thank
Fair
you.
enough? Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Kathy Leibovitz. I'm from Roxbury. This is my first time because I just retired, so I'd like to know where our money goes. And to say that I'm shocked at these numbers is an understatement. Because if you spend $32,000 per year per student, you could send them to any private school, even within New York City. But to get a little more specific, the big increase for health insurance, what is the deductible per person or per family?
Bob?
$3,000.
Per family or per person?
No, per family.
Well, that's pretty low. So I think that's one of the reasons why your expenses. I just sold my business, so I'm very familiar with it. And no matter what, we paid some and the employees paid some, and it was $3,000 per person. So to give it, that's a very favorable health insurance. And maybe that's why you went up $500,000, which is a big number.
We've experienced 14 straight years of very low, near zero increases.
That's
in
good.
some cases negative. However, we've experienced significant claims experience that when the actuarial people
No, I understand
study
that
it,
part. I understand that part.
it just went up.
But the answer to mitigate
It is true.
usually to increase the
Sure.
deductible.
But they're negotiated contracts.
Negotiate with whom?
The unions. So they're all negotiated contracts.
So you're blowing, yeah, I'm blowing smoke here. Okay. The other question I had, the transportation, the special ed private transportation out of area. I have one grandson who is a special needs child, but we have to pay for the bus. So why are we paying so much money? I think it's $400,000 this year for out of district. Why? In district, I understand we have to pay for the kids, but out of district, why?
It's mandated that we provide transportation to those students, our students in the region, to get them to a facility that can accommodate their needs.
$400,000? How many children are involved?
How many? Ally might be able to answer how many total.
Out-of-district transportation numbers, I don't think that's the right.
I don't think it is either.
The cost of an out-of-district placement.
Excuse me, I'm reading the number. Transportation, out-of-district special ed,
Can you share the page, please?
$372,000.
Can you?
Page 7.
This is for both in-district,
No. It specifically says out
doesn't
of.
say out of district.
Excuse me, sir. It does.
Six
I'm
of,
looking
it's on page 6
7,
of
line
13.
513.
It's both, transportation for special education is for both in-district and out-of-district kids. So part of the transportation that you see the buses running around are allocated to the children in the district, as well as those children we have to.
Yeah, but we
move out of-
have transportation in district for.
Those are
700
regular kids. There's two different.
Regular kids, $793,000.
That's correct.
And the regular kids can't coexist with the special ed kids on the
It
bus?
has to do with how we have to record costs to the state of Connecticut. You have to record your costs for special ed.
Okay, so
versus
let's
regular.
combine the two.
That's
That's how we
what it
can
is.
record it, right? Let's combine the
Yeah,
two.
that's what you have to do.
Transportation. You're talking about 800, basically 850,000 and 400 for argument's sake. So
Mm-hmm.
almost $1.2 million for buses.
That's all right.
How many children are on these buses for $1.2 million?
I don't know how many.
Anybody know?
Just about 700.
700 on buses?
Yeah, just about. That's our population, plus the kids we have to send out, and the kids we have to send to the tech schools.
No, that,
And
I
the
think that's
BOAG
separate.
students.
That's separate. I didn't count that.
I think I'm trying to, Ed. I'm sorry if you didn't hear it.
When I get home, I can't even hear it in the computer because I'm talking to the microphone.
All right, he's using the microphone now. Can we
It's
please move the conversation on? What,
So my question was, how many children take the bus? Not what the population is, but how many take the bus?
almost all of them.
We have really looked at the busing, and we understand the concerns for people who are outside of the education system looking at the busing. It's not so much how many students are on the bus. It's the distances that people have to travel. And we have a very large square footage of area that we have to cover. So many times we have to go out of our way and then come back.
What is
So-
what is the longest time a child spends on
Probably about 40 minutes, is it that much?
Yeah, 45 to 50
45 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, parents do not want their students on the bus longer than that.
Well, they
And
all
that was
survive.
a
Kids
big
survive.
discussion that we had a couple of years ago. They just do not. So this year we are reducing 2 buses. Since I've been here, I think we're down probably
From 26 buses to 18.
26 to 18.
But so
we've
is the
reduced-
the population of the students down.
Absolutely,
So-
but
makes sense.
although that is shrinking, the area is not shrinking.
I understand.
So our hands are tied.
Well,
And
that's
unfortunately, you
debatable.
have to provide transportation to the students.
In a reasonable period of time.
well, that's also debatable, what's reasonable. Okay, I have 2 more questions. On page 8 of 13, on the budget line item, special ed tuition private, $415,000. Uh-huh. What is it? What is it?
When there are students that we can't meet the needs of the program in district, we're required to place them in a program out of district.
And why did it go up $200,000 from one year to the next?
Because it depends on students that need to go out. There were students that needed to go out that didn't go out last year. So
And did they survive? Just curious.
I don't know your question. Did
But the
they-
point is that I think that it probably could be handled in an environment like this.
Well, I would say that we try to keep our out-of-district placements to the minimum of what's required, and when it's appropriate for someone to be in a program outside of the district, it's looked at very long and hard, and we try to do as much as we can to keep children in
Because
district.
that's a big increase, $200,000.
Really could be 2 students, but that would be increase up.
Where do they go?
So there are programs that students get placed in by other agencies other than school systems, that the school system then has to pick up the cost.
It's the people, really. The last question I have is all these big, big numbers, and then you get to supplies, textbooks, $23,000. That sounds like we're not buying any textbooks. No, it's
Well,
34,
gonna
I'm
let-
sorry.
I'm going to let the superintendent answer that question, but we are actually really aren't buying that many textbooks because most of our textbooks now are digital, and that's showing up in a different budget line, I believe.
Yeah, we have a balanced approach to textbooks. We have some courses that need textbooks. For example, a couple of our new AP courses need textbooks this year, and we are purchasing them. With digital tools that are now available to education. We get some books online, but we also get many books in print. And many books that we get in print, textbooks, they also have an online version. So we have been very careful and very proactive to try to buy our books as we go along. This year, I don't know what number you're talking about in particular.
It just says textbooks.
Yeah, which page are you on? 'Cause
I'm sorry, I lost.
are you on 11 of 13? No.
11 of 13, $34,000.
I lost my page.
Okay, so basically, textbooks can be found in a couple of
Okay.
different places. I'm just seeing here, 11.
8,
Okay,
page
so those are mostly at the high school, and those are mostly replacement textbooks. When we need, say, for example, we offer a new biology course. We will then put that in program improvements on page 9, and that shows the public that we are adding an additional textbook, and it's a new program. When we are just continuing books in our current classes because maybe we have a higher enrollment, or maybe there's a new addition, or maybe you have to replace, that's where you'll see books like that.
I see. Okay, I have no further questions, but I feel that the increase at this level should be curtailed because 32,000 per student is an insane number for public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie?
Hi, Valerie Anderson from Washington, Connecticut, formerly from the board. I want to congratulate the board, the superintendent in particular, for developing a reasonable budget in hard times, coming down to an acceptable level of, from almost 4% down to 2.76%. It's not easy. I think a lot of people don't realize that so much is state mandated. Questions previously were about special ed and transportation. The state demands these things, and we try our best to make sure that the children are happy, the parents are relieved that we're taking good care of the children, and the state has these mandates that are impossible to keep funding. Excuse me, I have a cold. I want to, every year, point out my favorite. It would not be budget time without me pointing out my favorite state mandated expenditure that this region has to pay for, which is line item 512, which is page 7. There's not a single thing we could do about it. Every single year I point it out, usually on the other side of this desk. I am very relieved to see it went down to $98,604. And it's the line transportation in district private, that we have to spend money to transport private school children who live in our 3 towns to their schools. But we have to do it, the state mandates it. I wish we could change the law and save this district $100,000, but at least it's not $137,860, which it was last year. You guys are doing an excellent job within the parameters that you have to operate in. I think your superintendent has always delivered excellent budgets, and we have to remember the amount of control you have is still fairly limited to what the state mandates we do. And yes, indeed, our child cost is huge. Well, that's because we have to turn on the lights, we are forced to operate 3 elementary schools in 3 towns, regardless of population. And we're trying to do something special up here. So, once again, thank you for your hard work. I think this is a very good budget, and I particularly like the drop in 512, but I sure as heck would like us to keep $98,604 if we can ever get the legislature to change that regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Barbara?
Thank you. And for those of you that emailed me with explanations, et cetera, Michelle, you were the last one in. I do appreciate the effort that you gave after the last time I was here. And
Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Barbara Henry, First Selectman, Town
You
of
know him?
Roxbury. No. I'm sorry. I thought you said Barbara. Barbara Henry, First
did.
Selectman, Town of Roxbury.
I did.
Anyway, and I see that the costs did go down. I have a couple of questions. Like I said, I appreciate your efforts. For me, they're not enough, and I understand all about state mandates, deal with them on a regular basis. The other thing is the zeroed out ECS that we're all picking up, the towns are all picking up. When it comes from the state, goes to the town, it's a pass-through to you. And I have to find it in our budget. And it's getting harder and harder to make up for the increases in the school budgets with the town budget. And this year was no different. It was very difficult. I have a question, piqued my interest about the buses, yes. I asked about trying to think of a different way and a different policy for transportation. And the 2 buses that you took out were Roxbury, I expected that, Washington, and why not Bridgewater?
Bridgewater, we looked at, and last year we actually removed a bus out of that number of buses we had running down there. And if we hadn't reduced it, it would have been in there, we would have taken out this year. Each year, each summer, we always look at these things. That's why it's going from 26 buses, came down to 20, and now next year will be 18. So it's constant battle trying to get the routes correct.
I know,
Still
I
get
don't
it done on time and covering the same, or hopefully they don't move into extreme places in the region where it takes a lot of time to do it.
So how many buses will there be in Bridgewater? How many in Roxbury? And how
There
many?
will be. Next year, I believe, I have it here, 1 second. In Bridgewater, there'll be 3. In Roxbury will be 4. And in Washington, 5.5. 4 in-district buses to service Reach, Montessori, and then we have 1.5 buses going out of district, going to 2 tech schools and Nanook. So they're split runs, and that's why the half numbers show up.
Okay. On page 11, can you explain this tuition? Michelle, you said that, let me see. I'm trying to, we also, all right, you cut the budget, the salary budgeted for the incoming superintendent. It looks to be the same number. And then the other thing was on page 11, the revenues by source. I would just like this to be explained. Bob has estimated our revenue as 132,851 less than we had this year, just to be conservative. If we meet or exceed last year, that will be at least 132,851 less billed to the towns than approved at referendum.
it gets refunded to you each year,
Mm-hmm.
and the fund balance. Each time we finish an audit, the fund balance is then distributed back to you, which includes any of that revenue. So if we jack that number up to some other number and it doesn't come in, the town would then be responsible to fund it back to the district. Taking a conservative approach, the town certainly can make that number a change number if they'd like, in anticipation of getting that back, but right now, we don't have a guarantee of that number.
Okay. I know there's no guarantee, a guarantee in anything,
Nope.
unfortunately. Like I said, I've sat in your seat, and I do appreciate the work that you've put into it. We are just on the sorry end of this whole thing for 2 years in a row by getting sklomped. It's a good problem in a way because we have more students. We're losing our students at a slower rate, and we do want to keep the diversity in our school. So that is a positive thing. It is still a very difficult pill to swallow, and I don't know how our town is going to be voting. I can't say. I hear a lot, and I'm a little nervous. But the $215,000 that's budgeted for the superintendent, that did not change.
If you look on page number 9 in the budget document, the transparency of that is there's a reduction in the superintendent's salary of the $20,000. The budget, if that budget were to pass, it's at the bottom of the page,
Okay.
and you see under where it says
Yep.
program changes?
Yep.
If the budget were to pass tonight at a vote, that would get applied to that salary line that's in the front part of the book.
Okay.
Okay? It's just not reflected in there because it would get buried and you wouldn't be able to find it. This adds some degree of transparency for the public.
Okay. I do appreciate your work. I have always been extremely supportive of the school system, the teachers, the administrators, and everything that everyone does. We have something very special here. But when it comes at any cost, like I said, it is very difficult to swallow, and it is not sustainable for the town of Roxbury. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, I will move, do I have a movement to adjourn this particular session?
So moved?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.